My hands are shaking, just thinking about this. Due to that, this might take some time, but I feel like it is important that I get this out. I wish I had known sooner, but this is the best I can do. I hope this reaches as many people as possible, and maybe some of them will heed my warning. If I am too late, or you don't believe me, I am so sorry. I am sure it has a formal name, but everyone just calls it the Manor. They labeled it an assisted living facility, but really, we were just keeping watch over the less sane members of society that happened to be over the age of 60. My mother had suggested I apply for a maintenance position earlier that year, and to my luck I got the job. It wasn't glamorous work, mainly cleaning floors, but it was decent money for someone with no college education. I just had to deal with the strange occupants of the manor, people like Edward Fritz, which is why I am writing this. Edward was mute and spent most of his time sitting alone. At 69, he was one of our youngest, but you could not tell by looking at him. Ed must have lived a rough life, and many of us agreed he could pass for an 80-year-old man. What little hair that still clung to his head was stark white, and his glassy eyes constantly stared into the distance ahead of him. One day, I found myself watching as he sat within his wheelchair among the rest of the tenants within the common room. His hands rested on the sides, but his fingers constantly moved as if playing an invisible piano. "Hey Ted, you alright?" a coworker said as he tapped me on the shoulder. I jumped slightly. "Yeah, Freddy, fine. Just curious." "Oh, you mean about Ed?" Freddy laughed. "Yeah, what's with the hand thing?" I replied. "No clue. Some of us have a few ideas though," Freddy said while leaning on his mop. I finally turned to him at the thought. "Like what?" That's when I learned that the entire staff had a pool going in regards to who Mr. Fritz was before coming here. Apparently, his file was devoid of any true history and listed no next of kin. His affairs were handled by an attorney who was in charge of some sort of trust. Freddy had overheard some of the higher-ups calling Eddie a millionaire. This was shocking, but I guess that is why they say not to judge a book by its cover. Some people thought Ed had been a famous pianist and was replaying songs from his past. Others figured he had spent his life working at a desk at some accounting firm and had simply burned out from the stress. All of the theories seemed possible, but something made me want to know the real answer. "That's not the really interesting part, though," Freddy said with a chuckle. My eyebrows rose, curious. "Really?" "Oh yeah, wait until our New Year's party. Ed comes alive," he responded. The next morning, I brought my laptop to work, and during recreational time, I eased my way into the common room. Freddy stood by the door to look out for any administrative staff, unsure of how they would react to my little experiment. I booted the computer and opened a word processing document before sliding the computer across the table. Edward's hands shook mid-air as he stared past me. I leaned in closer and gently guided his fingers to the keys. Within moments, the document was alive with letters and numbers of no particular order. I let Ed type for a good 10 minutes before Freddy warned me to get out of there. I grabbed up my laptop and fled the room while attempting to save the document to a file. I continued my rounds for the day, having forgotten my experiment by the time I had reached my car. The entire ride home, I was on autopilot, My mind focused on washing the grime of that place off of me and having some downtime on the couch. I was 3 episodes into a show I had been binging on Netflix when I finally remembered Edward Fritz, and I immediately went for my bag in the hall. The laptop flipped open as I returned to my place on the couch, and with a double click of my finger, the file opened. The first few lines had been gibberish, considering I was still trying to put Ed's fingers in the proper places. Then a few spaces were left, almost as if he had stopped a paragraph and started with a new one, but was still gibberish. It made no sense to me, so I let Freddie take a look the next day. It was a mystery to him as well, but he thought maybe one of the doctors might have an idea. I was not so sure about sharing our experiment, afraid it might cost our job, but Freddie assured me that he would take the heat if it came to trouble. So we shared our garbled message with a few of the physicians. None of them really knew what to make of it, but one of them suggested that it may be an encoded message and asked where we got it. We made up a story about finding a strange file on the laptop when I bought it and wondered if it meant anything. I am not sure if he believed us, but he didn't ask more questions. That night I went home and researched code breaking. Surprisingly, there are a lot of different kinds of codes and ciphers that could possibly solve something like this, if that was what it was. I copied and pasted the text into several decrypting applications, but came up with nothing. Eventually, I just set it aside and told Freddie that I felt it was a dead end. He did not seem convinced, but I had no way of being sure what Edward had typed on my computer, and after a few weeks I had completely forgotten about it. That was until New Year's Day. Most of our residents were of sound enough mind to enjoy a little party, so the staff had always obliged with one. Champagne was replaced with sparkling white grape juice, of course, but we prepared for a toast like most end-of-the-year parties. Freddie and I were tasked with being extra security for the little get-together, just in case there were any incidents. Freddie seemed a bit distracted most of the night, though, and eventually I asked what was wrong. "I haven't seen Ed today." His voice seemed shaky as he replied. I thought for a moment and realized something. You know, I haven't either. Both of us could not leave at once, but I told Freddie I would make the rounds and check Ed's room. I was curious to see if he really did magically come to life on this day of the year. The thought caused me to laugh a bit to myself as I crossed into the wing where Edward lived. The closer I got to his room, I started to hear something rustling within it. My pace quickened, and once I entered the door, the sound was revealed to be paper being scribbled on violently. Edward was hurriedly writing some sort of message, and once he saw me enter, he stopped abruptly. He shoved the page into my hands and began babbling complete nonsense. He grasped hold of my arms and jerked me side to side. He almost seemed like he needed help, but his grip was tight and his eyes were wild. Something about the way he looked at me frightened me, and I instinctively shoved him away. It took a few minutes to find a doctor, and when they reached the room, Edward was already gone. He had stumbled in my effort to escape his grasp and landed headfirst into his bedrail. I had never seen so much blood up until that point, and honestly, I felt so guilty for what I had done. I mean, for all I knew, Edward just needed help. Freddie could tell how badly it had affected me, so he slid me the whiskey he had snuck into the party. I took a few swigs as midnight came. "Happy New Year!" The room erupted around us. "Yeah, happy. I just wish I could start the day over again." I sighed. It has been 5 years since that night, and I have relived that horrible day ever since. Each day starts the same, and no matter what I do or who I tell, I cannot change it. I have had plenty of time now to decipher the message Eddie left me, both the file and the handwritten one. I wish I would have spent more time trying to figure it out. Honestly, it wasn't that hard of a code. They call it an affine cipher, basically just jumbling up the letters to encode it. I have no idea if Edward was doing this on purpose or if it was due to what happened to him, but considering my situation, I'm leaning toward the latter. This is what he actually tried to tell me. I am sorry. I should not have lived my life this way, and I wish I could change it, but wishing is what got me here in the first place. If you read this, please let my family know I love them, and I am truly sorry. I should have paid more attention to them instead of my work, and I am paying the price for it. I have been stuck in this loop for 9 years now. From what I can tell, I can see the world changing around me, but I can only seem to move my fingers. It is funny that when this all started, that was all I wanted to do. I had so much work that needed to be done, and not enough time. When midnight came that New Year's, everyone in my office cheered and created such a ruckus, but I was too busy for celebration. I cursed to myself and begged for silence. I called out to the universe for just another day to catch up, a day of nothing but typing up my reports so I could get ahead. So, the next morning when I woke up, I was trapped here, inside my head. Originally, my thoughts were garbled and I was disoriented, but I noticed my fingers still moved. My wife tried to help and sent me to doctors, but no one could find a problem. I spent a year with her that way. I felt so horrible for leaving her to tend to me like that. That's when New Year's Day came again, and somehow I could speak and move freely again. But for some reason, no one could understand me. I screamed and begged for help, but it only served to frighten my wife. That was when my doctor suggested I be sent to a private care facility. Since then, I have been a resident of the manor, and I sit moving my fingers just like I always have. I am not even sure what I am doing. Nothing makes sense, and every New Year's I'm allowed out of this prison, even though no one ever understands me. I wonder if my words sound as garbled as my thoughts once were. Today, a young boy gave me a laptop, and I want to warn you if you can read this. Be careful with New Year's resolutions. They say whatever you are doing when midnight strikes is what you will be doing the rest of the year. They have no idea how true it could be. I may never get out of this, but take this as a warning, and if you know a way to help me, please help me. I could not help Edward, and I doubt I can help myself, but maybe I can help you. Be careful of what you do or say on New Year's Day. The horror doesn't end here. Choose your next nightmare for more chills.